Sugar causes inflammation, and inflammation causes psoriasis. So which sugars should you avoid to reduce the flaking and itching, and which sugars can you have instead? Continue watching to find out. If you have watched my previous video on how to reduce flaking and itching and psoriasis, then you know that sugar is very acidic and inflammatory and causes our skin to grow faster and itch. Some people have it as dandruff, and some, like you and me, have it in the form of psoriasis because our immune system reacts far worse with inflammatory foods and substances than other people do. Excessive sugar consumption can also lead to dryness of the skin, puffiness, and dark circles under the eyes. On top of that, sugar causes our skin to sag and wrinkle faster through the process called glycation. Apart from creating problems on the skin, it also causes various other problems, starting from weight gain to diabetes. I have my own personal list of symptoms that sugar caused. Let me just read, and you'll be astonished how many unpleasant things sugar is causing. Obviously, psoriasis, itching, sneezing, bloating, gas, sensitivity in teeth, puffy face, sleeping too much. I could sleep from 10 to 11 hours a night if I could. Daytime napping, so it's not like your regular nap. It's when you are so fatigued after a meal that you have to take a nap or just literally take some time to sleep. Blocked ears and nose, when one of the ears you would feel like it's slightly blocked inside, and one of the nose would be blocked as well. Excessive hair loss, white tongue, peeling and bleeding of the skin around the nails, so where your cuticle is, just on top of that. Brain fog, poor concentration, poor memory, sensitivity to light, blurred vision, speckles in the eyes, PMS symptoms, dry hands and elbows, red spots on the skin, mouth ulcers, and anxiety. Of course, these symptoms did not happen to me all at the same time, just a bunch here and there, but overall, this is the whole list of things that excessive sugar consumption and maybe highly processed carbohydrate consumption can cause in individuals. You might notice, some of you who know what candida is, that the majority of the symptoms are exactly what candida overgrowth causes. Candida is present in our bodies in healthy levels, but when you consume too much sugar, then it grows out of proportion in order to eat up that sugar and reduce the blood sugar levels. So it is an ally in one sense, but it can also become a foe when it grows out of proportion and creates a lot of toxic waste that in return creates a vicious cycle of disease. So what we want to do is to avoid highly acidic foods so that we can reduce inflammation and in return reduce psoriasis. You'll find that refined carbohydrates also contribute to the problem. They are also inflammatory, and in return they raise your blood sugar levels. I think that by now you can see that we need to avoid anything that causes inflammation, be it highly acidic foods or highly refined foods, and often they are one and the same. So which sugars fall into the category of the ones that we should avoid? Here is a handy list for you. So from white sugars, we should avoid any granulated, powdered, or also called confectioner's sugar, caster sugar, even organic raw sugar, which isn't really raw. Brown, light brown, dark brown, muscovado, turbinado, and demerara sugars. From liquid sweeteners, we should avoid any sugar syrups like golden syrup, corn syrup, brown rice syrup, agave nectar, and pasteurized honey. We should avoid any synthetic sugars, be it sucralose, saccharin, aspartame, isosulfate K, also known as acesulfate potassium. We should avoid all sugar alcohols like xylitol, erythritol, maltitol, sorbitol, lactitol, mannitol, isomalt. And from sugars derived from starches, we should avoid dextrin, maltodextrin, maltose. These are just examples. You should use your own judgment to determine which sugars you should avoid, because new products appear all the time on the market. As soon as they are approved, they appear on the shelves. And we need to do our own research in order not to fall for the cunning advertisements that we see all around us. Weaning yourself from sugar is not easy, but you can make your life easier by replacing it with healthier sugar alternatives. Whenever you purchase anything, make sure to read the labels, as some of them might contain words like natural, and you might fall for it when the word natural does not really mean anything. You can even call refined white cane sugar as natural because it comes from a cane, or beet sugar as natural because it comes from beet. The word natural does not have any legal definition, and food manufacturers can use it in whatever way they wish. Here's a handy list of natural alternatives that you can use instead of the ones previously mentioned. The first and most obvious alternative to processed sweeteners would be fruits and dried fruits, also coconut butter, date sugar, green stevia powder, as these are whole foods and were simply ground up. So coconut butter comes from the coconut flesh that has been ground up, date sugar comes from the dates that have been ground up, and green stevia powder comes from dried up and ground up stevia leaves. The next category is brown sugars. You will notice that we don't have any white section on the list at all, and that's for a reason. The most unrefined sugar that is produced from sugar cane and sugar beets is organic unrefined cane sugar, or whole cane sugar, also known as rapadura, panela, sugarcane jaggery, and sucanat. Because this natural sugar is not separated from molasses, it has rich and fruity flavor and more nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. Other unrefined or healthier sweeteners include coconut palm sugar, date palm jaggery, and maple sugar. In terms of liquid sweeteners, you can have blackstrap molasses, which is the most mineral rich out of them all, but is an acquired taste for sure. Other liquid sweeteners to consider would be maple syrup, date syrup, coconut palm nectar, raw honey, malted barley extract, and yacon syrup. And there are some sweet substances that also act as prebiotics, which means that they are food for your gut bacteria. The good one. It is inulin and chicory root powder. Please do your own research when committing to any particular sugar replacement, as many more are coming to the market and I can't possibly include them all on the list. So use your own judgment and do your own research before purchasing. Next, there are some of the tips that I have for you on the right way to eat sugar. Okay, we now know what sweeteners are good for us and what are bad for us, but what we also need to know is how to pair them and when to eat them in order to still keep that blood sugar levels as low as possible, so that we do not create inflammation even with those natural sweeteners that are generally lower on the glycemic index, which means that they do not raise your blood sugar levels as high as those sweeteners that we need to avoid. Here are my 6 tips on the right way to eat sugar. And tip number 1 is temperance. One of the health laws is called temperance, and that means that we should abstain from anything harmful and eat in moderation that which is helpful. So even the natural sugars should be taken in moderation. Tip number 2 is to start your day with a savory meal. That way you're not going to create that desire for higher carbohydrate meals afterwards, but rather you will start with something that is higher in protein, fat, and fiber, and then incorporate a sweeter meal afterwards, later in the day. Tip number 3 will help you to slow down the release of sugar when you consume it. That is to take in a little bit of lemon water about half an hour before your meal. The next tip that I have for you is to eat dessert with your meal if you can help it. If you can't help it, then take a dessert together with some source of fat or fiber so that you can slow down the release of sugar into the bloodstream. So, for example, you could have a cake with some yogurt, or you can have some nuts, fruits, and seeds before you have your treat. Tip number 5 is to have a walk after your meal. You know that our biggest muscles are in our legs, and so when we walk, we use up the energy that is coming from the glucose, and so you don't get as higher sugar spike as you would otherwise have had you not taken the walk. And the last tip that I have for you is to have your last meal at least 3 hours before going to bed so that you can have a sound sleep and not wake up in the middle of the night with those hunger pangs. In the next video, I'll show you some of my favorite sweet and savory snacks to enjoy without compromising your health. So stay tuned and subscribe if you'd like to find out more. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
There's a sense now that something didn't happen if you don't share it. There are young people who wouldn't understand going to an event, traveling somewhere, being in a relationship if they couldn't